Today we are going to be covering my predictions for the All-NBA teams for the upcoming NBA season. I'm going to make this a three-part series. I'm going to do third team, second team, first team, building up because it's more fun that way. So this video will be me covering my third team predictions for the 2023-2024 NBA season. Let's do it. Alright y'all, just a quick disclaimer for the All-NBA teams. The NBA now has two new criteria that they've added to be able to be eligible for awards, All-NBA selections, etc. The first one being there's a minimum game requirement, which is 65 games. So if you can't play 65 games, you will not be eligible for these awards, right? Which is going to hurt a lot of players because we know things like load management and, teams resting players just to prepare for the playoffs. It sucks, but that's going to be something that's going to take a lot of players out of the running. So you're going to see a lot of different players now being able to get into that upper echelon of All-NBA due to the fact that some guys are a little bit more unreliable than others, right? And the second thing is now All-NBA is no longer positionless. It's not point guard, shooting guards, or it's not two guards, two forwards, and a center, which is good because DeAndre Jordan was the first team All-NBA player at one point, which we cannot have again. No disrespect to DeAndre, great player, but come on now, let's be serious. So now if it's five guards, it's five guards. If it's all forwards, it's all forwards. If it's all bigs, it's all bigs. So be it. I like it better because now you're getting the 15 best players in the NBA rather than having a top three center in a list where he's like the 17th or 18th best guy, but he's there just because he's a center. So I like this change. I think the 65 minimum is a little bit tough because a lot of guys are going to miss that, but it is what it is, and we'll see how the season goes. But anyway, let's get into my predictions now. So my first player is De'Aaron Fox. He's 25 years old, not quite in his prime yet, but he's starting into that. When he gets to 27, 28, that'll be when his prime really starts. But these past three seasons, he's been averaging 25 points per game on average. That's been a steady increase his entire career. He's gotten better and better as time has gone on. He plays in Sacramento, which as we know was the third seed in the West last year. I don't see a ton of movement in those standings coming in this season. I think the Suns will be better than they started last year. Obviously, the Nuggets are still good. The Lakers are better than they were before the trade deadline last year, so they'll be better. The Warriors made some moves, so they'll be better. So I think for the Kings, it'll be hard to keep that third seed overall. But in order to avoid the play-in, De'Aaron Fox is going to have to be at the top of his game, which I expect him to do so. And if we look at last year, he really exploded in the playoffs against the Warriors. Outside of a hand injury, we really don't know how that series goes. It already went 7. Curry had a 50-point Game 7. Until Jason Tatum broke that, it was the highest Game 7 ever. But you really need to see how Fox is going to do fully healthy throughout the course of the year. They really kept the same team. There's going to be a lot of development there. So I really can see Fox taking advantage of that opportunity and shooting himself into All-NBA status. Second on my list is Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards has been good since he stepped on the floor as a rookie. Don't let the USA basketball team bias, don't let it fool you. This isn't new. He's been developing consistently over the years he's been in the league. He came in the league averaging 20 points. He's been above 20 points the time that he's been here. He's played 70-plus games in all three of those seasons. I can't see why he can't make that list. He's going to be healthy enough. He's going to take that leap into stardom. Cat is going to take a back seat. I think it's clear that AE is the one option now. They're playing in a conference that's not really top-heavy. It's pretty good all the way down. I mean, if you look at the two worst teams that made the playoffs, the play-in, it's the Pelicans and the Thunder. Both teams that are showing great development really fast. So if Minnesota still wants to stay relevant and hopefully get into that upper playoff, the top 6, not the play-in, AE is going to have to be at the top of his game. And I can't see a reason why he wouldn't. So for that reason, I think AE will find himself on third team All-NBA. Third player on my list, Donovan Mitchell. Cleveland had a great year last year. I think they completely shot expectations out of the water. I think Donnie had a great year, career high 28.3 points per game. After all the drama in Utah between him and Gobert, he came out and put in a great performance, right? He is a spectacular player who completely sold in the first round of the playoffs in horrific fashion. He dropped 5 points per game off his average. He was down to 23 points per game against the Knicks in a series that I think they should have won. They were the higher seed. I think they had a better team. They had home court, and they blew it. Now, Donovan is going to look this season to have a huge bounce back to rectify that situation. He has to. After the way things went down in Utah, where they constantly performed in the playoffs poorly. They choked consistently. They lost to Dallas without Luka the year prior. There's something there that Donovan needs to rectify, and he will. He's been a 20-point per game scorer since he came into the league. Every year he has gotten better, including the career high this year. They don't have a ton of scores on that team, which gives Donovan all the chance in the world to create for himself. Granted, Garland is coming back. He's now off of injury, but I still don't think that's enough to take away from the amount of possessions and shot attempts Donnie's going to see. I think they have enough shooting there to open up the floor. I think he'll be able to attack the basket. He'll be able to work one-on-one ISOs. With all that, I think he could still average around 27, 28, put the Cavs in top 6 seed contention. Not a finals contender by any stretch of the imagination, but an all-star, a solid team, and that'll find himself on the list on third team. My fourth pick for this list is a little bit of a personal bias pick, but I'm picking Tyrese Halliburton to make third team All-NBA. The thing I really like about Reese is that he kind of has like a modernly traditional style of point guard. Like, I still think he plays that traditional point guard role while also being like a mid-level scorer, which is nice. You know, he's going to be like high teens, low 20s, but also give you 9 to 10, maybe 11 assists a night, which I know that the game is more than just statistics. But from that type of approach, I think Hallie's going to put up the numbers that can put him in that tier of all-NBA players. And if you look at Indiana, I think Indiana's a team that he can run. It's under his control. It's all him. There are shooters around him. There's a versatile big in Miles Turner. I think that opportunity is perfect for Reese. The only thing I'd be worried about with Reese is that knee injury that kept him out of games at the end of the season last year. That's it. Now, I don't think it'll be a huge deal, but that's something to look for with Reese's game, is that can he stay healthy the entire season? Now, the thing I really like about Reese, though, and this kind of plays into the Pacers as well, is that the Pacers in the East had the 6th seed locked up until Reese went down, and they lost 9 out of, I think, 10 or 11 games. They slipped all the way to the 10 seed, and from there, it was pretty much over. There was no more competing for Indiana. But when Reese is healthy, that team is really good. They're a solid middle pack Eastern Conference team that's going to compete for the play-in or low 6 seeding in that playoffs. With that, Reese's numbers, I think he could throw maybe like 21, 22 a game, maybe 8, 9 assists, maybe. I think that right there, along with the output that the Pacers will have, which I think they can be a high playing team, that right there could land Reese on this list of All-NBAs. There are other dudes that are put up similar numbers. Like you look at Trae Young, for example. Trae Young could give you like 27 and 10, but I just don't think the Hawks are going to be as good as Indy could be with a fully healthy team. There's nothing that I've seen from last year that would make me feel otherwise. So that's why Reese makes this list. Now, the 5th and final pick on this list could be higher, could be lower. I know some people are going to say he shouldn't be there at all, and some people are going to say, how is he any lower than second team? Is Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, as we know, just got the most lucrative deal in NBA history. Whether I think it's a good deal or a bad deal is irrelevant. It's a bad deal. But it isn't because he's a bad player. He's a great player, which is why I have him making an All-NBA team. Right? Jaylen is somebody who is a clear second option. It's evident at this point. I think that if you're still riding that train that Boston doesn't know who their 1-2 are, I don't know what to tell you. I think it's clear as day that Jason Tatum is the 1, Jaylen Brown is the 2. Now, as a clear number 2 option, that guy is going to give you 24, 25 points a night, every night. Some nights he'll even be the better scorer. He'll outscore Tatum on a handful of nights over the course of the season. He's that guy that can give you that type of spark you need when your star isn't performing and when the role players aren't performing either, which we've seen with Boston, like the reason they lost in this year's playoffs and the reason they lost to the finals and the Warriors 2 years ago. It's a role player issue. And Jaylen Brown, I think, completely negates that, especially with his development. He's a guy now where on the Celtics, they just traded away their heart and soul, Marcus Smart. They traded for Kristaps Porzingis, a very versatile big, gives you rim protection, gives you shot making from the mid-range and from the outside as well. The Celtics are clearly at this point all in. They are all in. They have to be. They made some moves in the offseason while still keeping their core along with a lot of their bench. And now, granted, some of their pieces are aging, but they're still young enough. And with that, Jaylen Brown is going to take that and run with it. There's no reason Tatum isn't going to average 29, 30 points a game, be the clear star player. But Jalen averaging 24 and 7, 24 and 6, he's one of the better number 2 / high-end role players in this league. And he'll make All-NBA because of that. Now hold on. I know you already started saying this list is trash. There are players you left off. I can't believe you would do that. So I'm going to address it right now. I know there's a handful of guys that should be on this list that I don't have for my own reasons. And I'll go through them now just to make sure you guys aren't too angry. Right. Number 1, Paul George. Paul George is, I think, one of the most skilled players in this league. I think he has the smoothest game. I think in any circumstance, he can go out and hoop and give you 26 points a night. But the problem with PG is he's not going to stay healthy. He's had really bad injuries every single year for the past 3 to 4 years that have kept him out for double-digit games. The Clippers are always a banged-up team, which then puts even more demand on PG, especially when his counterpart star Kawhi can't stay healthy either. There's just too much there going on that's going to negate PG from being able to perform for 65 games minimum and making a third-team All-NBA list. There's too much there. There's too much variability. There's too much volatility for those two guys that Paul George is going to find himself on the short end, and that's why he's not on my list. Not even sure why I'm mentioning him because, to be honest, I don't really need to, is James Harden. We all know James Harden's best years are in the past. We know that. It's not an insult. It doesn't mean that he wasn't one of the best scorers we'd ever seen. It's not what that means. He's just not going to be at the level he needs to be. With all this stuff off the court with Daryl Morey and the fact that he clearly wants out of Philadelphia and the fact that I think Joel is also a little uncomfortable with Philly right now, there's just not a circumstance where James is going to be able to succeed. He'll have decent numbers. He just won't produce like any of the guys that I have on third team. I think there's too much drama to where him maybe getting traded, maybe sitting out games, also history with injuries. There's too much external things going on that are going to prohibit him from performing at the highest level that he can. So unfortunately, James has to get bumped from this list.